Lecce. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
My name is Namirah, and I'm from First Team 7480 from Kingston. And on behalf of the entire First Canada Youth Council, some of whom are actually with us today, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to speak with us, and also for your incredible support of First Canada and all youth in STEM and skilled trades. As you may know, there are many teams in the First community who have mobilized recently to create PPE in support of the battle against COVID-19. So I'd like to begin by asking you how the youth who are getting involved in these initiatives can be supported in our efforts.
Yeah, I am tremendously impressed by the leadership of young people in this country. You know, you look around the world and, we see so much darkness and we can be overwhelmed by that. But when you start to really dig into it, you start to realize that there are young people making extraordinary impacts in their communities. And I think of the students who are doing, building personal protective equipment and goggles and masks for first responders in my own community, both students in high school, an educator working with a 3D printer, as well as some medical students in my community that are at one case, the University of Toronto Medicine. So the idea that young people can make a difference, I think, is very much alive and well today. And I think we ought to be inspired from our peers who are stepping up to the plate to make that difference. So that is important. And I just want to give a shout out to each of you. I know, we're all doing our part, staying home. But I also know that many of you, particularly within the First Robotics family, are not the type to just be complacent. I feel like this is a safe space to say there's a lot of A-type personalities on this group. And I'm excited about that because I know you're all hard workers, ambitious, and patriotic and want to get back. So I want to just give a shout out to each of you for doing your part.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lecce. That means a lot to us, for sure.
Hey, Minister. My name is Param from First Team 4946 from Bolton. And the unique and crazy thing about First is that it inspires students from all different walks of life to become engaged in STEM and explore some new interests that they may not have considered otherwise. So could you perhaps describe your journey of following your passion for politics during your teen years?
Yeah, and I will tell you this, my staff did send me the questions. Some of you had some themes that I think came in, but I did look at it because I thought I'm much better at this if I keep it organic and real. So permit me a second to think about these things. But, I got into politics not from a traditional perspective. And, I speak from, politics is a rainbow. Wherever you happen to align yourself today is amazing, as long as you're interested in government is a positive. But, my parents are both immigrants. They came from Italy. They didn't speak the language. They didn't have any money. They didn't really know anyone here. Similar story, to be fair, to a lot of people, newcomers in this country who've come since before our country was confederated. And for whatever reason, I took this real interest in public service, the idea that government could be a force for good. And I really thought, when I looked at government, I didn't really see myself reflected in it. I thought, not a lot of young people maybe could use more generational perspectives, not enough women in politics, people from different ethno-cultural and faith backgrounds. I think our government needs to better reflect our people. And as a young person, I often thought that. And so I thought, as I looked to some of the political actors of the day, I thought, well, I think I could do this. I love people. I'm a problem solver, utilizing some of the greatest skills I know that you all have, especially within the STEM discipline. But, analytical, hardworking, really believed in some values that I was raised with that I thought were really important. I thought, I want to make a difference, and I think I can. And so I got involved at 13 to go knock on some doors for a local politician, and he was very supportive, very excited by the prospect of someone as young as 13 being really fascinated by government and democracy. And they sort of say that the rest is history. At 13, I got involved and successively stayed involved. Was president of Western Student Government, which is the largest student union in Canada. A really fascinating experience. It was a $22 million business, and you're running a nonprofit business. You're 100 staff. You're serving a 30,000 almost city-like government. And I had tons of opportunities to give back. And I thought, I love this. I love the idea of affecting change and making a difference in transforming, systems to improve them. And so that's really, once I got elected there, I thought this is, I'm really enjoying it, almost punishingly maybe at times, but I thought there's something good here and I'm going to continue it. Then I went to go work for Prime Minister Harper thereafter. I worked in Prime Minister's office, and the point is that, I had no political background. My parents were not donors to a political party. They just really encouraged me to give back and to follow my passion. And my point to you is, with hard work and a sense of integrity and discipline, if I can do this, I am very confident. I am looking at a minimum of 9 or 8 other future prime ministers or ministers of education, because I have much higher ambitions for you. But no, honestly, I mean, nothing about my story is special other than hard work and remembering where I came from. And for me, it was humble beginnings from my parents.
Thank you very much for those inspiring words. I'm sure they've really hit home with a lot of us here today.
Param, I'm looking to you, man. You could be the next prime minister. All right, no pressure.
Maybe.
Bonjour and Disney Cars, first team 5672 Donjaba. Hello everybody, my name is Aaryn. I am from first team 5672. I live in a fairly remote community in Kumikong on Manitoulin Island. Could you speak on how First Nations communities in Ontario are being supported during this time of uncertainty?
Thank you very much for the question. I last week had a really positive discussion with all the chiefs, First Nation chiefs of Ontario, with my colleague Greg Rickford, who, in addition to being the Minister of Energy, is also the Minister of Indigenous Affairs. And the discussion was very positive. The focus was on how do we make sure that First Nation students continue to get access to learning, especially given, as you mentioned, on Manitoulin Island, for some, they will live in remote parts of Ontario. And I want you to know that we're fully committed to ensuring that you have the equal access to learning no matter where you live. And especially for our First Nations, where we're really invested in their success. So one thing we're working on is a partnership that we announced a little while ago when it comes to getting technology out the door, to make sure that, for those that may not have access to iPads or internet or whatever it may be, really bridging the gap and coming up with creative solutions, low cost but high impact solutions, to make sure that those students are learning and they continue to have the supports of their community. Also, culturally appropriate education is really important. I want to make sure, First Nation students are feeling comfortable on and off reserves, especially when it comes to educational experience. And one thing I was very proud to have unveiled this year was this reciprocal education agreement, which now allows, removes all the red tape, the headaches, and what often was a lot of delay for students to be able to access a education on reserve, or a person or a student on reserve to access education outside of the reserve. Before, as you may know, it could take months and it was a headache, and a lot of people just felt like, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. But we've removed that, come up with a framework that's now going to allow students to move where they want to go, where their families think is best for them. And I think that's important. But I know that there's more to do in this respect, especially as we plan for the coming weeks. So we'll be listening to our elders, to our chiefs, and to you, among others, about how we can do this better.
Jimmy, for your support. It really means a lot to us.
Thank you.
Hi, Minister Lecce. I'm Mehak from First Team 4939 from Brampton. So although the emphasis on engaging more females in STEM has increased, there is still a visible lack of equal representation. And I was just wondering, what is the Ministry of Education doing in order to break these gender barriers currently present in the STEM fields? Yeah,
I very much appreciate that question, Mehak, because what it underscores is in 2020, in one of the most inclusive, countries on earth and democracies, we still have this type of gender division. And I think it's really unfair, although I'm really, and no offense to Param and to Aidan, but I love the fact that there's such strong representation of women as well as Ishan, but others, but just such a strong representation of women who are present within this organization, and the fact that you've taken such leadership in encouraging other young women to follow their dreams is a positive. In engineering, as a proof point, there's such a gender differential between men and women, including today. So how can we fix that? There's, I think, two material ways we can do it. The first is we can continue to ensure that the programs we do are marketed and advertised to young women at an early age, that they can see themselves reflected in the field. That's really important. And it's sometimes it requires us just to do a better job at really communicating the opportunities within these sectors, these STEM sectors, to young women, and starting young. The second is, I think we have to do a better job of persuading parents in some respects to be part of that solution. You know, I come from an immigrant family, and every family is different, but if there are some preconceived notions of what does my daughter or son, what is he or she to do in their life, I think we have to break down those assumptions and sort of allow people to reach, reach their potential, absent any of those preconceived notions. Let them do it on their merit. And I have absolute confidence that if we, really permit a meritocracy where hard work and results guides where you want to be, not, your faith or your ethnicity or your sexual orientation or your gender or whatever, those things really shouldn't be material in decision making. So part of it is working with parents to help them feel comfortable and almost moving beyond comfort, inspired that their daughter could be an astronaut, making an incredible difference in AI, in like all these things I think are important, but also I think in the careers course, there's a real emphasis on STEM education, the grade 10 careers course, and encouraging them to ensure that women are part of that pathway for more students in Ontario. But I would love to, if there's ever more ideas you will have on how to do that, listen, and we're all ears. I think a lot of governments have tried, the numbers are still low. It's not a comment on the effort. It's just more of a reality that we've got to somehow figure out how to do this better. And I would love to see gender balance within these sectors of the economy. We need more people in STEM. But the fact is, we don't have enough people to fill some of the skilled trades roles and sort of specialized roles within the economy today. And as you know, I mean, the baby boomers, as they say, they're our parents, and maybe for some grandparents, for my parents, for my dad, he's exiting the workforce. And so that creates opportunities, but it also creates vulnerabilities, opportunities that we can get your generation and perhaps even my generation could enter into those jobs, but risks that if we don't have a plan to get, that talent into the labor market, then you have gaps, and that creates huge challenges competitively. So we just want to see more people, especially more women doing it. And I'd love to speak with you folks at First Robotics about how we can do that better, because I'm sure all of you are on your ways. You're an ambassador of this cause yourself.
Thank you for your response. I definitely agree with, especially I think when there's equal representation, whether it be male, female, or even non-binary individuals, it just allows for any fields, not even STEM, to grow further, and even in like any teams, just like more diverse teams allow for a better like end result. So thank you for your openness and willingness to work towards that. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ishan, and I'm from First Team 2706 Merge Robotics from Ottawa. And as the current Minister of Education, how do you believe the Ontario education system will evolve in the next 5 years after the current pandemic passes?
It's a good question. It's a loaded question, Ishan, because it requires a fair bit of introspection. I think we can all acknowledge that the outbreak, COVID-19 globally, has really imposed some unique challenges on people, on educators, on nonprofits, on businesses, on governments, really on civil society. All of us, in a sometimes similar or dissimilar way, are feeling the challenges of COVID-19. And so while there are, obviously, health and safety remains and must remain the government's priority, and each of our own individual priority, to be fair, I think you're right. We have to also still be taking action short term to sort of remediate any of the problems, sort of smooth out any of the kinks that exist, just make the system of learning at home work as well as it can. But I love, leaders that are able to deal with issues in the immediate term, but always have their eye on the medium term and long term. And so the question really fundamentally is, well, how does this experience inform and transform Education Ontario? I think it's a tad too early to tell, but what I can tell you so far is that technology, it probably will never and ought not replace in-class instruction. Having the ability to be in a class, seeing your educator, having that, just that human touch. Maybe we can't, it's hard to quantify it, but I think it actually has a huge impact on all of us. And so I think, while it'll never replace in-class instruction, what it has demonstrated to me is that it is such an important backstop. It's such, it can be, as imperfect as this reality is, a fairly effective backstop for some students. And so I think for me, what the lesson learned is how do we ensure that no matter what happens in Ontario or in Canada or literally the world in this case, how do we pivot quickly, seamlessly to continuing to educate our students without creating interruption, without making the stress and compounding the stress on you or on your parents or on the teachers and the whole system who's sort of, we're all in an equal, I think we all have we're all a little bit frustrated just by the reality of this. So it's about learning lessons from this crisis so that we are better off as a province when it comes to our ability to deliver positive education led by a teacher. My preference really is this type of live, dynamic form of discussion. I think this type of learning can be really powerful for students. And look, I know it's not the same as being in a class, but I mean, I'll tell you, if we had to do this via phone, I'm not sure I would have had the same experience, the same feeling, the same sentiment, being able to see each other and our emotions and the social emotional realities of this. So I just think the better we can deliver learning online using this live dynamic form of education, and the way we can improve it going forward will be a really important lesson for students today, but for sure in the future, if we have to deal with COVID-19 or other types of pandemic or natural disaster, or God forbid, any scenario that could happen in a country. I think there's an opportunity here to really get it right, build it up, and become a leader in our country when it comes to delivering education online, knowing full well that in-class instruction is still the way to go.
Yeah, for sure, I agree with you. The technology currently has been helping a lot with making sure that we still have a medium to communicate directly, since currently, obviously, direct communication is a bit difficult, but at the same time, where we don't want to eliminate the direct communication. We just want to make sure that right now we have another way to pass on the information.
Exactly. Thank you.
Hi, so my name's Emily from Stony Creek First Team 2056, and I'm interested in hearing how the government is planning our gradual return to a normal school lifestyle and what we as a student can look forward to the new school year.
Well, the first thing is today I put out a communication to families, boards of education, students to say, look, for students in senior kindergarten, graduate to grade 1, but I don't want to take that away from these youngsters. My nieces is one of them, but especially for grade 8 and of course for grade 12, for both, you have earned your right to a graduation, and for those schools that participate in, for a prom. And I know that right now in the immediate term, it's just not safe to do it. But what I've asked the whole system is, let's not cancel these important milestones. Let's reschedule them when it is safe to give students the recognition they deserve. Because I think for the last, you're a grade 12 student, for many, your entire past 4 years plus elementary school, if you're going in from grade 8 to 9, the same is true. You deserve that. And so we have to celebrate success in Ontario, even if it is tough, to delay these milestones. The first thing is a recognition that we got to keep doing that. And then when it comes to, sort of the Learn at Home program, I think for me, a major emphasis is just going to be on trying to further strengthen the way we deliver online learning and empower parents and students and educators to have the comfort to do more of this. And I know that for every one of us, this has created some challenges. It's new, it's at times awkward, it could be uncomfortable at times, and I value that. But I do think that everyone's trying, and that's the can-do spirit of our province, of our country, where we're all going to do our best, rise to the challenge. I mean, it goes to the first question about getting PPE out the door for students literally building personal protective equipment. That's the spirit of our country. And I think we should be very proud to be Canadians right now, because, I think we stand out as a people that are united by one mission, which is to overcome this darkness. And I think we're all starting to see slowly the light at the end of the tunnel. So I just hope we can remain optimistic and hopeful, knowing that we will overcome this, as our country literally has done every single time we face challenge, even before we were a country in 1867.
Yeah, thank you. I actually didn't know about the prom and graduation thing, which I think is awesome, because I know a lot of my grade 12 friends who are really upset because they're missing their prom or they're missing their graduation. And I can't imagine myself next year missing that. So I'm really thankful for the work that you're putting into this and trying to help us still get those milestones, and so that we're not missing out on the things that are really important to us.
Thank you. I heard one class is doing a virtual prom. I thought that was actually a pretty cool idea, but I'd like them to have a real prom as well. So maybe they'll be able to do all the things, but I really appreciate your feedback, Emily. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Minister Lecce. My name is Maria, and I'm from First Team 7712. And I know that marginalized populations in Ontario are especially vulnerable with the effects of the pandemic. I think it's wonderful that the government is providing personal electronic devices to students. So I was wondering if you could tell us more about your role in ensuring that students in these communities can continue their studies.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question, Maria. So in the province of Ontario, the government gives about $75 million to boards of education to buy technology, essentially. And so there's 200,000 devices, iPads and computers, for example, that are already out there being distributed, or largely have been distributed to students. Because, as I said before, we want to make sure that there's no gaps that exist. To the extent possible, we really want to make an effort to ensure that every student gets access to the technology and the support they need to succeed in this environment. And I'm very committed to making sure that we don't compound an existing challenge where there's unequal realities. Some students, will have access to technology or access to other services that others may not. So my job as Minister of Education is to make sure we equalize that experience. We bridge the gaps. We make sure that there's no child left behind, if you will, when it comes to accessing those services. So there's a partnership that is being offered province-wide between Apple and Rogers, for example. As I mentioned, a pretty good and neat idea, a neat concept of working with these well-known, telecommunication companies and software and technology companies to get iPads out to as many people as possible. And boards of education are working to distribute those in real time. Over 21,000 of them. They will have internet embedded in them. They'll have all the Apple software embedded in them. It's a good story of how we could work together to get those devices out. But it's also a reflection that, the government needs to make sure that for racialized students and for individuals that just, felt that the system wasn't meeting their needs or supporting them sufficiently, that we never allow that experience to happen, including in a COVID world, because we have to make sure that that's top of mind. So I think getting technology out, making sure that the system of education, that access to their teacher for those parents, for those kids is super important, for those students is very important. And I just want you to know, for me, I'm very committed to combating the forms of discrimination, hate that could exist, not just, in Toronto or Canada, around the world. And if it's based on, people's experiences, their differences, that's something that I really feel as a sort of younger politician, we have to confront. We have to, say it. We have to be prepared and comfortable as a society to confront these challenges and to acknowledge they exist. especially when it comes to, elements of systemic racism or discrimination against Muslims or Jews or the LGBT community, or against people of various gender. I mean, that is it's unacceptable, and it's just wrong to hear me say it to you. It seems odd that we have to acknowledge this in 2020, but it does exist, and we have all of a responsibility to really be part of the solution. So, also, in addition to that, it just speaks to the culture we're trying to build in Ontario, where irrespective of your difference, we want to judge you on your merit, on your opportunity, on your inherent value as an individual to contribute and succeed in schools. So there's a lot happening in the broader equity portfolio. I am not letting the COVID-19 outbreak, let's say, slow me down on the work that has to happen when it comes to combating discrimination, when it comes to improving equity in our schools, when it comes to bullying and cyberbullying. All of these things continue our work, because I just think that we can't miss out on the opportunity to drive that change. Because I think for a lot of students, they demand it, they deserve it, and I think for their families, they're sort of losing patience for how long it's going to take to see their kids get ahead. So I am absolutely committed to that, and I'm really grateful, Maria, for your question. And again, as I said earlier to others, I'm open to ideas as well about how we can improve access and equity in Ontario.
I think it's great that the province was able to garner a partnership so quickly with Google and Rogers to make sure that students could continually have access to that, because education is really the key, is a key factor in success. And I'm really happy to hear about all the other initiatives that you have going on with the province in terms of, yeah.
Hi, my name is Aidan. I'm from Toronto-based First Team 610. With online learning, keeping up motivation can sometimes be a challenge. I've been combating this by video calling with friends and working together online each day. I wonder if you could share some tips on how we keep up motivation on this new online platform.
I think two things. I think right off the top, the one is I'm very grounded in just seeing my family. I've got two young nieces. You may have siblings or family members that are young, but I find that has been keeping me motivated, because it reminds me sort of every day who I'm here to serve. Like literally the future is in their hands. And so that keeps me a little bit of humility, a little bit of motivation, and obviously very close with my family as an uncle. But I think the other thing I'm trying to do more of is, notwithstanding, like I listen to the medical advice. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm working from home today, I'm in the office, but like virtually no one's here. But I'm still trying to make some time like for my mental health when it comes to just like going for a run, try to do a workout, like even from home. I think we often focus as a society, and I get it, on the physical elements, the physical health, the implications of COVID-19, and that's totally prudent. We have to be safe and help flatten the curve, and I'm grateful that everyone's doing their part. But we can't lose sight of the mental health aspects. That we're all human beings, and like not for anything, but we want to see people. I like to hug my grandmother. I don't think that's a very high standard, but we obviously appreciate why we can't do that right now, to our parents or our siblings and our family. So I think just making sure that we take time for ourselves and to acknowledge that if we face some challenges in our lives, it's okay to talk about it. I believe mental health is so important to our society, to the ability of our young people to overcome challenge, to be resilient, to be confident. And so we announced, pretty sizable investments to programs like Kids Help Phone, which is, if you ever needed anything for you or for anyone who may watch this, just to text the word connect to 686868, you could be on via text, phone, email, you name it, live chat with someone who's there to listen to and support you. And so I really appreciate the question, Aidan. I think everyone will have a different sort of solution. I lie to you if I tell you that I have not been eating a lot of carbs over the last little while. I need to maybe do a run tonight now that I acknowledge that to you. But look, as long as we are safe and reminding ourselves that, of our physical, mental health, and being there to support our families, who I'm sure for your parents and maybe for your grandparents and extended family that are facing pressure and challenges in their lives. Some of them could be working, some of them could be the essential service frontline workers. So just reminding ourselves of that and trying to be as positive as possible. It's going to make a difference for your family and really for your community.
Well, I think that's great to hear. And I also love that you talked about Kids Help Phone, because that's actually one of the initiatives that the Youth Council has actually been working with our Mental Health Mondays initiative, which just wrapped up after about almost a year, school year running on our Instagram page, as well just reminding ourselves who we're staying home for and who are like trying to find some motivation in people that we need to stay home for and stay healthy for.
Do I follow your Instagram page? Is it First Robotics?
It's First Robotics Canada. So
This
our
one?
Mental Health Mondays,
that one?
that is it. Yeah, I believe so. So our Mental Health Mondays initiative recently just wrapped up, but you can see all of our stories in our on our profile. So actually one of our youth council members here, Mehak, she was the one leading that for talking with Kids Help Phone every week. So it's really great to hear you talk about that.
Okay, thank you so much, Aidan. Appreciate that.
So thank you again for answering all of our questions. It's been so incredible, hearing these inspiring words, learning about your story, learning about the different initiatives that, the ministry is promoting and all these things with the iPads. It's been absolutely incredible. And you are currently the Minister of Education. You're in charge, and you're really an advocate for all these values that we here at First also care about. And we were wondering if, since you're already being so successful as a Minister of Education right now, would you ever consider running for Prime Minister one day?
Well, that's a good question. I think my answer in short is no, and I'll tell you why. Look, I am a big believer in being ambitious and setting lofty goals, but I'm also a believer in realism. And for me, I love what I do. I love provincial politics. I love the Ministry of Education. I love having the ability to improve the lives of 2 million students. So that's very kind of you to ask. And that's the toughest question of the day, by the way, Param. So thank you so much. I'm very grateful to you for that. But look, I just think it's a great example of people setting ambition for themselves. Every one of you, I mean it, every single one of you absolutely can break every glass ceiling that exists within the STEM world. When it comes to both on gender or people of different experiences, every one of you can be that change, literally. And there are so many case studies of people really, punching above their weight, making a difference, and sort of being the first. And it's like in your mission statement as well, that the concept of leading and pioneering. And so I think for me, I was elected at 31. I was appointed minister at 32. I am the youngest minister of education in Ontario history. And I just sort of, you got to pinch yourself every day, reminding yourself that oh my goodness, there's an incredible amount of opportunity here. So I'm going to stay put here. I don't think there's any more plans beyond this, but look, no matter what I do in government, just reminding myself who I'm here to serve, which is literally enabling you and your families and your friends, particularly your generation, to succeed, to have that competitive advantage, to be able to get out and get a good job related to your skills. That is my aim. That's my ambition. And I know that together we will do that.
Thank you so much. I mean, it would be incredible to meet you maybe in person at a First competition one day, and you are such an inspiration for youth. So I just want to thank you again for that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've already said this to the team. I would love to come back and say hello, and I know that that'll be something very much welcomed. I'm sure Kim and the whole team will allow that to happen when it is safe. But in the meantime, we're going to continue doing this. And look, I'm really just very grateful for you taking the time today to do this. This has been very neat, cool experience. And if this goes on much longer, maybe we can do it again.
Definitely. If Namirah just has some closing thoughts.
Well, I just want to say thank you again, Minister, for being with us today and answering all of our questions, and for really everything that you're doing for students right now. Thank you.